Okay, so I guess with GE, you thought this is my opportunity. I'm gonna take it. And what? So you mentioned you had a mentor who kind of took you,
Yeah,
under his wing.
he was the MD at the time. I
Yeah.
came in at it was funny. The transition to Lagos was quite different from any other opportunity. It was like kind of created for me, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a few other individuals that they had looked out for, but it was a communications intern was my title. I was
Interesting.
a literary communications intern, and in Nigeria we have this like youth service. It's called Nigerian Youth Service.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah,
That
yeah, yeah. We have the same here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was doing my youth service at GE. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So it was cool. It was a nice brief introduction, but Mr. Falawio, Mr. Tunde Falawio is the one that really like, all right, cool. Now you're really doing business in Nigeria. Now you're really
Mm.
working. So
Yeah.
the proverbial soft landing that you said, I believe was due to Mr. Falawio. Like
Yeah.
the GE wasn't necessarily a soft landing. Like at that time, it was kind of it was an opportunity. I don't want to discredit them in any way. I appreciated the opportunity. I learned a lot. However, the real soft landing was Mr. Falawio, because it was like, okay, now I'm fully here. I'm fully engaged. I have like a team around me. You know,
Mm.
of indoctrinated me into the business. It was more like a postgraduate academy and like, but real hands-on experience.
Mm.
The was like an introduction. It was like the appetizer. But then Mr. Falawio gave me the meal.
And
You know,
how did you meet Mr. Falawio?
so my wife's dad
Uh-huh.
is one of my very good friends. And when I first met him, I
Ah.
always like to tell the story because I had never heard of the name. And I was completely oblivious to anyone, all the big men in Nigeria. And I met him, he had flip-flops on. I met him at his hotel in Atlanta. And so, of course, he was dressed down. He was like, yeah, you oughta.
Unassuming.
I
Mm-hmm.
was so unassuming, so humble, such a guy. You would never know like this, the caliber, the magnitude of this guy. I just met him, and of course, I just treated him like like regular. I was like, hey, how you doing? Hey, uncle. Hey, what's up now? Hey, what's going on? So what do you got? Oh, job? Yeah, yeah. Well, don't take this the wrong way. I might not come. I don't know. I'll look you up. So he gave me his card. And lo and behold, I come to Nigeria again because, the whole GD thing didn't work out. And I was at the time thinking about trying to get a job at ExxonMobil. And so at the time, the guy that was the MD at ExxonMobil, his name was Mr. Tunji Oyebanja. And so I was like chasing this guy around because I was introduced to him. I was trying to call him, text him, no response. He was like, it was one of those, oh, yeah, don't worry, come and see me in the office. Knowing fully well I'll never make it to the office. But that didn't work out. So I remember that I had this Uncle Tunde's card. And I was like, oh, let me call him up. And so I called him up and he was like, yeah, I'm in town. You called at the right time. Come and see me. And so, okay, I go to Apapa, to go and see him in his office in Apapa. And I look up at the building. It says Fulawio Plaza. And I'm looking at the card. I'm like, oh, man, hey, big guy. So I go up and all of these people are waiting to see him, including the same guy from ExxonMobil. He was in the trying to see the guy that wanted me to come and see him. So I'm like, I get in the room and it's the big waiting room. They're all in suits and, I'm dressed down because, of course, I don't know the caliber of who I was going to go see. And so I go and see him, but I see the guy that I've been trying to see. And I'm like, you too, huh? You're here too. You weren't as big as I thought. So anyway, Uncle Tunde comes out, and of course, I'm the last person he's going to see. But he sees me, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, sir?" And they're all, everyone stood up and shook his hand. He was like, "Mr. Atlanta, how are you now?" I was like, "Oh, sorry about that, sir. I had no idea." And so we just hit it off, and he gave me a great opportunity, and I'm forever grateful.
That's amazing. So how would you, for people that are looking to transition, I think you got really lucky.
I did.
Yeah, in finding a mentor. But how would you advise them to go about, finding someone who will basically, give them responsibility, give them opportunity, kind of ground them and introduce them to the realities of the market? For me, actually, that was an alum of my school. He gave me my first job in Kenya. And as a result of that job, even like the external directors he appointed have continued to be mentors to me. So I also got lucky in that regard. But I think that's also a critical element to transitioning is finding, I forget what my husband used to call them, not kingmakers. There's a word he used to use, like people who will help you, settle, navigate, expose you in the network, because you really got a network when you're back.
It's extremely important. I would definitely not recommend to anyone to try to jump in blindly. It's okay to come in for a visit. I think that if I was to do it all over again and to really put together a strategy for someone, and what my words of encouragement would be for that individual would be that, okay, what is it that you want to do? Just identify that. Then begin to identify the people, the key individuals, the key players that are in that industry. So if you want to make bread, and bread is, you want to be a baker, and that's your passion, that's your dream, find the biggest bakers that are in your place that you want to do business, whether it's Ghana, it's Kenya, Nigeria, Morocco, whatever African country that you want to go in. Find out who the biggest person is. And God's so good, we're in a technology day and age where these are accessible. Before they weren't. You would have to know someone that knew someone that knew someone. But now you can find the person's name, find an email, and believe it or not, people respond. Respond. I cannot tell you how many companies that when I first started my consultancy that I was sending, these email blasts to that I felt like weren't going to get any traction or any attention. And surprisingly, it did. But persistency is the key. You may not get a response your first go around, but stay persistent. And you may not get the top person in the industry, but someone in the industry will respond. Someone might give you that opportunity, and then set up a trip, plan to say, okay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, depending on what your situation is. Some people may not have the luxury of time, or the finances or resources to be able to stay forward. But I would definitely encourage a minimum of 2 week trip for you to kind of get a real feel for the place that you plan on being. Can you see yourself living in this environment or working? And then in those 2 weeks, you should have had targeted, appointments, targeted visitations with individuals that you want to either work for, or you want them to mentor you and to give you advice about the space. And, in Africa, I noticed that there are things that you just can't plan for. Some things just happen, unexpectedly, and you have to learn how to navigate that. But that will come as you're there, as you're living, as you're working. You'll learn to adjust and adapt. I think that every African on the earth has this innate ability of resiliency, that we will get through it somehow, some way, and it's not going to be easy. So I think that that's one of the things that people need to know. It's a fairy tale story for me now, but there were moments and there were times where you do get homesick. You feel like, and at that time, we didn't really have social media. We had Facebook, but Instagram wasn't available. And it wasn't like this real time where I can just get on and see. It would be like, oh, I post something and somebody sees it because of the time difference 6 hours later. You know what I mean? And, then I'm responding. So it's like I'm talking to them a day in advance, and I have to wait until the end of the day before they respond. And they may not respond until the night. And so you have that sense of kind of loneliness if you don't really meet the right people. And everyone that I was around when I first came into Africa, they were all older than me, 10, 15, 16 years older than me, because I was a young guy that just came in. I was virtually unknown. And I was able to blend, I was able to adjust, and kind of fit in, and then once you insulate yourself with the good people, a good network, you won't really have that sense of loneliness or like, oh man, I missed this, I missed that. And then now almost everything, things that I enjoyed, like KFC. There's KFC all over the place in Nigeria. Like, you know what I mean? Like we got Domino's, so all of these things are starting to come into to Africa.
They are.
Abundance. And if companies and corporations see the opportunity, how much more should we see it as individuals that actually belong to this culture, to this country? Why not maximize? We should be the ones that are actually bringing these people in. And I think that's another way of looking at it that we don't really do. If you want to be a baker, maybe partner with the biggest baker here and see how you can bring them into your situation. And then you know, or whatever you're passionate about,
Yeah.
you know, that passion from here, there, and say, hey, you know, I am from Kenya, or I'm from Swaziland, and you know, I got this land over here. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And because of your service and because of the reputation that you've built here, you know, or in Europe or whatever part of the world that you live in, and then you bring that to Africa. And I think that that's another way that the transition is a little bit easier, because now you're coming with the backing of an organization. Not everyone would do it, but those ideas that I know now that I wish I knew then.
Right. That's really powerful. I think there's two things that you said that resonate. Is one, you know, we need to be the ones to also take advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah. Yes.
And two is like, don't feel like you have to give up your passion. Try and figure out how you can actually bring your passion and your skills to advance the continent. That's excellent. You talked about resiliency. What other qualities have you had to embody?
Patience. Patience is something that even probably Mr. Falawi would tell you that I didn't have. You know, and it's just come over time, but you have to have it. Coming into Africa, things as simple as electricity. We can be talking right now and boom, it goes out. And you just have to learn to adapt. You can't really be frustrated. In the beginning, I remember working at home out of the, you know, after I leave the office, if I had extra work that I had to do, and, you know, I would be on my computer typing up a nice report or something, and boom, my power goes out. And I didn't have like the UPS, the uninterrupted power supply, these things that you don't think about because you just take so many things for granted. And, you know, just that simple adjustment of electricity, like it's a shocker. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean it's not working? Or, you know, things that were supposed to work. Sometimes our water would go out in the building I was in. We'd have to wait for the water to be delivered. You know, you build that patience, you know, and acceptance, you know, on the things that you cannot change. You know, they are just out of your power. And there's no way that you could actually like factor that into your planning. You can't build that into a contingency plan. Totally. Or what happens if the road closes, or, you know, you just don't think of those things. There are a lot of elements in Africa that you don't think about, but they occur. You know what I mean? And you have to learn how to adjust and adapt, you know, and that can only really come from being patient. You know, these are things that I'm saying it now, it sounds lovely, but these were things that were extremely frustrating, and they take a toll on you know, if you're not mentally prepared. So I think that the other things aside from resiliency is, you know, the ability to adjust, the ability to adapt, and then just being patient. And then just having the mental fortitude to know that, hey, when it happens, you just got to be cool, trying to maintain your peace and be calm, because people in worse situations are still thriving. That's one thing that I know about Africans. Like, we just have this innate ability. It's a beautiful thing because we're beautiful people. We're even in the roughest circumstances. You know, there was an article on LinkedIn about a lady that was taking tires and making it into furniture. I saw the video just maybe last week or 2 weeks. I can't remember her name. But just a typical example of, you know, playing the cards that were dealt to you. You know, like literally going around gathering these old tires, refurbishing them and making them into furniture, sofas, tables. You know what I mean? And so I feel like with the abundant amount of resources that we have, we always find a way to press on. You know, even if it's the road seller kid that is using this to go to school, he's juggling school or she's juggling school while selling fruits on her head, taking care of a little brother and sister. It's a lot that we do that, you know, I think sometimes the world doesn't see or doesn't give us enough credit for.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a certain level of work ethic as well that I think is not fully appreciated.
No.
Yeah.